There are three wars happening right now. The one Washington is describing, the one Tehran is describing, and the one that is actually unfolding in satellite data, intelligence leaks, and body counts that neither government wants you to add up. Here's what the official version leaves out. Russia is feeding Iran the exact same drone playbook it used to devastate Ukrainian power grids. Ukraine sent interceptor engineers to the Gulf because America didn't think it needed them, and then lost 7 soldiers to the drones it refused to prepare for. The Strait of Hormuz is mined, not allegedly. The U.S. Navy destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels and still isn't sure how many mines are already sitting on the seafloor. And the new Iranian supreme leader, a man who has never held a single public office in his life, is now holding the launch codes for what remains of the world's 4th largest ballistic missile stockpile. Nobody is winning this war cleanly. And the part that should concern you most isn't on any front page. Quick note before we go further: if this kind of analysis matters to you, subscribe and hit the bell. This channel exists because you watch it. Now let's get into what's really happening. The hidden third player, Russia. Every briefing out of Washington frames this as a two-sided war. America and Israel on one side, Iran on the other. Clean. Contained. That framing is wrong. According to a Western intelligence official who spoke to CNN this week, Russia has been giving Iran specific operational drone tactics, not general encouragement, not diplomatic cover, but precise battlefield guidance drawn directly from 4 years of drone warfare against Ukraine. Think about what that means in practice. Russia spent years perfecting a method of attack, launch hundreds of cheap drones in coordinated waves, vary the altitude, vary the timing. Overwhelm radar by making every threat look identical until one isn't. Force the defender to burn through expensive interceptor missiles faster than they can be replaced. That strategy, refined over Kyiv and Kharkiv and Odessa, is now being handed to Tehran, tailored for the Persian Gulf, and the drone in question isn't some improvised weapon. Open source analysts examining debris in the UAE this week identified a Garan-2, a Russian-manufactured variant of the Iranian Shahed 136, built at the Kupol plant in Izhevsk, fitted with a Russian Komet-M jam-resistant navigation system. Iran designed the original, Russia built this one, and then Russia sent it back. The cooperation used to run one direction. Iran supplied the drones, Russia flew them over Ukraine. Now it's becoming a two-way street. What Russia learned in 3 years of combat, Iran is receiving in real time while the war is being fought. Washington knows. Defense Secretary Hegseth said this week that Russia and China are not really a factor. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff said he is taking the Kremlin at their word, that no intelligence is being shared. The Western intelligence official, who confirmed it to CNN, said something rather different. There is also the matter of what Russia may be providing beyond tactics. The Washington Post reported last week that Moscow has been sharing imagery from its satellite network. Positions of U.S. warships, locations of American aircraft in the Gulf. Trump said he does not believe it. The intelligence community says it is tracking it. Someone is wrong. Russia's motivation is not complicated. Every Patriot battery defending Riyadh or Abu Dhabi is a Patriot battery that cannot defend Kharkiv. Every interceptor missile fired over the Gulf is one fewer available to stop Russian ballistic missiles over Ukraine. For Moscow, this war is free. It costs nothing and stretches its primary adversary across 2 continents simultaneously. That is the third player, and it is not on the map that the White House is drawing. The tactical error. America won't admit here is a detail that has gotten almost no coverage, and it should define how you understand everything that comes next. 7 months ago, Ukrainian officials flew to Washington with a PowerPoint presentation. They had spent 3 years developing cheap interceptor drones, small, fast, inexpensive systems capable of hunting Shaheds out of the sky before they reached their targets. The Shahed cost somewhere between $20,000 and $50,000 per unit. Ukraine's interceptors cost around $5,000 each. They had built the infrastructure, trained the operators, achieved combat success rates above 60%, and were producing nearly 1,000 interceptors per day by late 2025. They told the Trump administration, "This is how you stop Iranian drones. Let us show you." They made the case for protecting U.S. forces and Gulf allies in any future conflict with Iran. They're dismissive. The pitch was dismissed. 2 months later, America started the war. Iranian Shahed drones began hitting U.S. positions across the region. A drone struck a makeshift facility housing U.S. troops in Kuwait. 6 service members were killed. A 7th died separately. The Pentagon confirmed 140 service members wounded. Regretful. Then the Trump administration went back to Ukraine and asked for the interceptor technology. 2 U.S. officials confirmed to Axios that the original dismissal was one of the biggest miscalculations of the war's planning phase. Ukraine, now deployed to the Gulf to help protect the same American allies who stopped sending it weapons, is intercepting Iranian drones using technology Washington had been offered and refused. The cost of that refusal is currently sitting in 8 flag-draped coffins and a Pentagon casualty list. That is not a footnote. That is the central indictment of the planning behind this war. The weapon nobody can answer. There is a choke point at the base of the Persian Gulf, roughly 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, through which approximately 1/5 of the world's entire oil supply travels every single day. Iran closed it, not with a declaration, not with a blockade, with the oldest maritime weapon in military history. Das Mainzelmanöver davor bis auf inside this Osenador sent a warning that any ship attempting passage would be targeted. Tanker traffic did not slow gradually. It collapsed from normal operations to near zero within days. Over 150 vessels anchored outside the strait rather than test the threat. Shipping insurance was pulled entirely for the area. Protection and indemnity coverage, the essential layer that makes commercial maritime trade legally and financially viable, was removed on March 5th, making the economic risk effectively incalculable. Here's what makes this different from every other naval blockade of the modern era. The U.S. Navy decommissioned its last 4 dedicated minesweepers in the Persian Gulf last September. The specialized vessels designed specifically for this scenario, locating and neutralizing mines in contested waters, are gone. What remains are general-purpose ships that can attempt mine clearance, but at slower speed with less capability, and in a strait that Iran can still reach with anti-ship cruise missiles, attack drones, fast attack craft, and whatever ballistic inventory it has not yet expended. American mine-sweeping capability in that body of water is right now at its weakest point in decades. Trump said this week he does not believe Iran has successfully laid any mines. U.S. Central Command said it destroyed 16 Iranian mine-laying vessels. Neither statement actually tells you whether mines are already on the seafloor. The Navy didn't say it found and destroyed any mines. It said it destroyed the ships that lay them. Those are different statements. Meanwhile, an energy analyst's calculation that is circulating in defense circles puts the stakes in concrete terms. Nearly 15 million barrels of crude oil per day, plus 4.5 million barrels of refined products, are currently stranded in Gulf storage. Storage tanks are filling. Producers cannot export. Prices crossed $115 a barrel this week, up from roughly $60 before the war. The International Energy Agency approved an emergency release of 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, the largest in its history, to slow the spike. It has slowed the spike. It has not stopped it. And this is before calculating what happens to nitrogen fertilizer, most of which routes through or originates from Gulf producers who depend on the strait, and which feeds a substantial portion of the global food supply. That connection, Hormuz to fertilizer to food prices, is the supply chain story that is not being told. The scorecard, who is actually winning? Both governments are declaring victory. Here's what the numbers say. On the U.S. and Israeli side of the ledger, Khamenei is dead. The IRGC's top generals were killed in the opening strikes. Over 5,000 Iranian military and infrastructure targets have been hit. Iran's navy has been declared combat ineffective. 30-plus naval vessels sunk. The nuclear and ballistic missile program has been set back by an indeterminate but significant period. U.S. Central Command says missile launches from Iran have dropped by roughly 90% compared to the first day. That is a formidable list. Now, the other side of the ledger. Iran has fired over 500 ballistic missiles and more than 2,000 drones in 12 days. It has struck U.S. bases across at least 27 locations. It has killed 8 American service members and wounded 140 more. It has struck civilian infrastructure in Israel, including a ballistic missile that collapsed an underground bomb shelter in Beit Shemesh, killing 9 people, with investigators concluding that no civilian shelter of standard construction could have survived that impact. It has effectively shut the most important energy corridor on the planet. It has drawn Hezbollah back into active combat from Lebanon, with over 200 rockets fired at Israel this week, and Israeli forces now threatening to take Lebanese territory. It has brought Iraq's militias back into play with drone and missile strikes on U.S. positions. It has forced Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Kuwait, and Qatar to activate their air defense systems in near-daily operations. It has pulled Russia deeper into the conflict as a covert participant, and it has installed a new supreme leader who has pledged to continue the war indefinitely. Foreign Minister Araghchi said on Tuesday, and these are the operative words, Iran will fight for as long as necessary. So here is the honest scorecard. The United States and Israel have done immense damage to Iran's formal military structure and its nuclear program. Iran has responded by attacking the global economy, killing American soldiers, and refusing to stop. The White House says it needs 4 to 6 weeks to accomplish its objectives. Iran's new supreme leader says there is no time limit. Neither side has defined what the end of this war looks like, and that asymmetry, America needing a defined endpoint, Iran simply needing to survive, is the strategic reality that Washington's victory map does not capture. The number nobody is talking about, Secretary of State Rubio said something this week that went largely unremarked. Iran is producing weapons faster than the United States can destroy them. Read that again. The world's largest military, operating with the largest defense budget in human history, running what Defense Secretary Hegseth called the most intense day of strikes in the conflict so far. And the country on the receiving end of those strikes is producing the weapons to respond faster than they can be eliminated. The math behind this is not complicated. A Shahed drone costs between $20,000 and $50,000. A Patriot interceptor missile costs roughly $3 million. Iran has been launching hundreds of drones per day. The Gulf states have been intercepting them with million-dollar missiles. Bahrain alone has intercepted 105 ballistic missiles and 176 drones since the war began. At some point, the ratio becomes unsustainable, and not for Iran, but for the defenders. Ukraine learned this lesson the hard way. The entire strategic theory behind Russia's drone campaign was never to win with a single strike. It was to drain the defenders' high-end arsenal with a flood of cheap, expendable weapons until the expensive interceptors ran out and the expensive targets were left unprotected. Russia taught Iran that strategy. Iran is now deploying it against the most capable air defense network in the world. And while the network is holding largely, the inventory question is not being answered publicly, and the cost curve is running in one direction. Here's where we actually are on day 13 of this war. The United States and Israel have delivered devastating blows to Iran's conventional military. Iran has responded by attacking global trade, bleeding American personnel, activating its entire proxy network, and surviving. Russia is advising from the shadows. China is watching the Strait and considering financial assistance to Tehran. Ukraine's engineers are in the Gulf doing work that America refused to prepare for. Toxic black rain caused by burning oil facilities is falling on Iranian cities. UNESCO is issuing emergency warnings about the destruction of World Heritage sites dating back 3,000 years. And a man who has never held public office, Mojtaba Khamenei, the dead supreme leader's own son, is now the person holding whatever is left of Iran's strategic coherence together. He was injured on the first day of the war. He has pledged not to stop. The White House says the war will be over pretty quickly. Tehran says it will fight as long as necessary. Trump says little is left in Iran. Iran just attacked 50 targets across Israel in a 5-hour coordinated operation with Hezbollah. One side is defining the end of the war as the destruction of a regime. The other side defines it as survival. History is not kind to the side that needs the other to quit. Neither side can verify what the other is hiding. Neither side has told their public what this looks like when it ends. And the Strait of Hormuz, the artery through which the modern world's energy economy breathes, remains closed, possibly mined, and dependent on a diplomatic solution that does not yet exist. That is where we are. Thanks for watching. If you want to stay ahead of what's actually happening, not the version either government is selling, subscribe and turn on notifications. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think has the strategic advantage right now? And is there an exit here that anyone has actually planned for? I want to know what you think. I'll see you in the next one.